Welcome to the Limitless Potential podcast, where together we will dive into the personal, business, and career-rich tips, techniques, stories, and experiences of some incredibly successful and inspirational people, each with their own perspectives and journeys, and each with golden nuggets of wisdom which might just change your life. I'm Tracy Stone, and I'm a master trainer in a number of career supercharging techniques, a transformational coach, international best-selling author, inspirational speaker, and a woman discovering and evolving my very own limitless potential day by day.
I went to yoga and one thing you're going to stand up at your stage.
Celebrate yourself.
Spiritual things for a second I met her.
And so once a week, each of you take
Now I look at this. I see this happening many times again. Again, I see it in a positive way.
Hi, and welcome back to another incredible episode of Limitless Potential. Today, I am so happy to welcome back for another visit the very lovely Diana Lockett, who joins us today from Squamish in British Columbia, Canada. Diana is a visionary conscious communication coach who helps leaders and speakers to communicate with great confidence and clarity and to build relationships that are rooted deeply in trust, collaboration, and cooperation. Her transformational coaching and speaking uses her superpower of creating safe and unconditional spaces to invite individuals and groups to compassionately experience and express all parts of themselves through a lens of loving acceptance, inner wisdom, and relaxation. And it's in these states that one can show up and communicate authentically and create inspired action to serve from a joy-filled life. Diana, who is a 6-time international best-selling author, 6 times. Yes, and we're here to talk all about that. She is also a transformational speaker, communication consultant, a spiritual somatic coach and healer, has launched her first solo book titled The Call to Freedom, Heal Your Pain, Awaken Your Loving Presence. And that book has become an instant international multi-category bestseller. Diana is here with us today to talk about her brand new book and how through it she helps others to tap into their limitless potential. Welcome, Diana, my lovely friend. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's always a pleasure to be in your presence. Thank you so much for having me at this exact moment in time.
It is really, truly my pleasure. And I know that this has been an incredible time for you for so many reasons. Diana, take us through it. Tell us all about the background maybe to your book and then the journey of your book and launching it. It's been quite a journey.
Yes, it has been. And as I say that, I just feel my body wanting to exhale. It's been, this book was a 7-year journey to write. I originally had a book planned in 2014, and it was going to be called The Universe Has My Back. And if your listeners know, Gabby Bernstein released that book in 2016. And I've sent Gabby a message. She's actually supporting my book. And I've said, of course, that book had to come through you. Like it couldn't have come through anybody else. So it got me back on the chopping board, writing my book again. And over 7 years, I would write for pieces, moments, maybe a couple of days. And then I would stop. And I lost the inspiration to write in those moments. Like I felt like I couldn't force it. So I would write for just spurts at a time. In that journey, I wrote or co-wrote in 5 compilation books. And that was wonderful because I could write those chapters in 20 minutes. Like they just came through me, channeled through me so quickly. And then I would go back and say, okay, I should pick up my solo book again. And I wouldn't pick up my solo book. And what I realized is I truly needed those 7 years because I had to live the experiences, particularly in the last 3 years since COVID. I had to live those experiences to be able to complete my book. My book would not have been complete without those experiences, or I would have been like immediately writing a second book, which I'm not ready to do yet for many reasons. So my book is essentially a memoir, and it is my life. However, it's everybody's pain. And I love the reviews that have been coming in. Tracy, your review was so beautiful. Like, it's like a warm cashmere blanket and a cup of hot cocoa. I just love that because as I was writing it, if anybody has written their memoir, and my memoir has a lot of trauma, and I didn't hold anything back. And that's what people are saying. It's like, wow, everybody's had these experiences, but nobody's dared put them in writing the way that I have. And it's because I wanted to be fully transparent, vulnerable, and authentic in the process. And so it is a book that starts the day I was born, a twin, separated at birth from my twin and from my family, because my parents had toddlers. They had to go back home, take care of them. And my sister and I, kept in separate incubators, were left at the hospital, and no one would have picked us up. No one would have cared for us for several weeks. And it moves through all the moments of my life where I experienced abuse and neglect and sexual abuse and bankruptcy and heartbreak and all the experiences I went through. And I am not the only one who's gone through these. And as I'm writing the book and I'm moving into these massive vulnerability hits that literally wants to paralyze me, I continue to remind myself, I'm not writing this book for me. I'm writing this book for the reader. This is going to be medicine for readers. And I don't even care how many readers. At the time, it was like, if it's one reader, I've done my job. So that phrase, my book is medicine for someone else, I've used that even through my compilation books, but especially through this solo book, because it speaks about the miracle that we all are and the remembrance of the miracle that we all are. And it speaks to the resilience that we all have within us. And it speaks to the pain that's universal and the healing potential that's limitless and also universal for all of us. So I persevered with this book for 7 years. It's been quite a journey. Every chapter offers what I call realignment steps, because my program's called Realign to Thrive. Realignment steps that are the actionable steps that you, the reader, can take to be able to move through that piece of your life. And the pieces are, for example, wearing masks, people pleasing, lack of boundaries, grief, how to access loving presence, how to integrate all of life into any one present moment. So those are sort of my chapters. And then every end of chapter has actionable steps that you can take, some of which I did and I do still continue today, every day. I teach these to my clients. I've become certified in all of these. So I don't teach anything that I either am not qualified to teach or haven't actually experienced myself in life. And I'll pause there for a moment.
Oh, you know, when I read your book, which of course I got early access to read it, and I was so happy to read. Oh, it's beautifully written. It's raw. It's real. It's very, very honest. And, you know, you share everything out there. And I think the power in that is to be able to allow people to connect to it and realize somebody has felt the things that I feel. Somebody has been through something like me. And they want to then read more and think, is there a solution here? Is there help to be found? And there is. Not just in the words of the chapters, which are so powerful, but in these realignment steps at the end of every chapter. It's so beautifully connected. I can only imagine how many people that this is going to speak to and help.
Yeah, it truly is a calling that I had. So the call to freedom, the title was channeled through a friend. And the minute that she said it, it's like, absolutely, that's it. Because I was sleepwalking for the first 32 years of my life and had a seemingly very successful life. I have air quotes on very successful life on the outside. But something inside me started to shake, started to rattle, started to call me to something different. So this is the call to freedom, because what I want people to realize is that we can all heal our pain. The call to freedom: heal your pain, awaken your loving presence. And healing comes as we navigate that very gentle and patient journey to bringing loving presence to it all. It's not an overnight fix. It can't be an overnight fix. That would be what I would call a spiritual bypass. I just want to feel good. I'm just going to go out there and spread joy and love into the world and not feel what's below the surface that called me to awaken. And we all have those calls. The question is, are you willing to answer the call? And so I have this movement happening now. It's hashtag, are you ready for the call? And I'm creating a private Facebook group. I'm going to do monthly masterminds or master classes in that Facebook group. And there's a really nice, beautiful, big community now starting to form in that group in a very short time, because people are ready for the call. People are ready to experience life from a different perspective, which is the perspective of love. And the whole book is pain to love. How do we access that? With the final chapter, chapter 13, I have chapter 13 super fans. They haven't read any of the book. They went right to chapter 13, the final chapter. And the chapter is called, You Are Me, Lovingly Disguised as You. And the very last sentence is, what would love do? Ask this question, what would love do? And serve that on the menu of your life.
I mean, how poetic, how beautifully put. But it's so much deeper than just being poetic, isn't it? The words are right, they evoke the emotion of it all, but it's the intention and the action it leads to.
It's the intention, and there's in that intention, it's what I call it is the remembrance. Love is who we are. It's who we were when we were born. The moment we were born, every single child and baby is born authentic and real and kind with goodness in their heart and this golden essence. And the day you were born, I call him my teachers because I've had the privilege of being in his presence several times, the late Dr. Wayne Dyer, said the day you were born, your parents looked up at the heavens above and said, thank you, God, I'll take it from here. And they started to imprint us. And all of our beliefs and our conditionings and our experiences that we've held in our body were delivered to us at times when we were not looking. And they continue to run our subconscious or unconscious programming, which I know you know so much about. It's your work. All of that is what I call the unconscious or invisible ink menu to our life. And until we're willing to shine a light on that invisible ink and look at it and say, how did I get here? What do I truly value? Who do I want to be in this world, and what do I want to contribute? Until those days, we are essentially sleepwalking in life. And then there comes the call that there could be something different. And that something different comes with two super important considerations. One is that we are all miracles. That there's a 1 in 400 billion chance that any one of us would be here. Statistically, that's 0. And yet we're here. Every one of you listening is here. You made the cut, and it wasn't a variation of you. It was you as you are today. You're a miracle. And so that's the first consideration. Here's the second one. If you're a miracle, the other one is too. And the other one is every single person that came across your path that showed you love, and every single person that came across your path that showed you something that was not love. They're also miracles. But they are running their own unconscious programming that allows them to do things that perhaps on a human level, certainly in my experience, on a human level were incomprehensible. But on a soul level, can we remember that we are all human and divine simultaneously?
Diana, I so love that bit. You actually pinpointed one of my very favorite parts of the book in that example. I remember distinctly when I read that, it was later that night, I said to my partner, Simon, about this miracle. And we know these things. We understand it. We know these things, but you forget about the importance of it. So when I read that part, and I said to my partner, do you know, this has really made me think. It has really made me realize the gift that we are, the gift that we have, the gift that everybody else is. And it puts into context all of the little squabbles, all of the little frustrations, all of the things that derail us every day in life. And it really truly reminds you that the very fact that we exist is already a miracle of huge magnitude.
Yeah, I so agree with you. And, you know, we forget, I forget, I'll personalize it, I forget as well because life can get stressful. I mean, in 3 months, I moved, in 2 months, no, like in 6 weeks, I moved, still in the same area. I prepared to go to LA to do a big personal development live event, my first big live event since COVID. And I had to prepare several talks for that. And then I was getting my book launched. And then we'll talk in a minute about the tragedy that sort of, surrounded that at the time. And so I had a lot of stress. I had a lot of busyness. And I understand how that can sometimes let us forget that we're miracles, and then starts to create narratives. And it creates narratives about our lives, and it creates narratives about the lives of others. And so we start projecting this stress onto it, into stories that we create about others, like how dare they, and they're my people, and it's my thing, and it just becomes so egoic and needy in that moment, because we're caught up in the stress. And I want to just give everybody like this blanket forgive yourself moment, because we all do it. And then we have a choice. And the 3 C's that I call are take a chance to make a choice to create a change. And I listened to Steve Farrell and Greg Braden just this week on the Humanities Team Organization, because I'm looking to work with them. They're a massive global international team that's looking to seriously create change in the world. And Neil Donald Walsh is one of the founding members. And Neil Donald Walsh, Conversations with God, who I love his books. And so we all have this opportunity to do it differently. Doing it means this moment where we're projecting, reacting, lashing out, creating stories, manipulating, all these things that people do in the world when they're feeling out of control. And I have a chapter 10, which is the chapter that I've extracted as my giveaway, and I can totally make it available to your audience if you'd like. Chapter 10 is called Living with Surrendered Presence. And that chapter, I mean, every chapter, it has a bit of a standalone opportunity to it, but that chapter fully is, if you're finding yourself gripping at life, reacting, lashing out, as I do that, my fingers are like exploding, feeling tension, feeling judgment, manipulating life, the world, people around you, all of that stuff, read chapter 10, because that is how can we go from gripping life, trying to control and manipulate life, to opening up our palms and letting life be a gifted experience. And it cannot happen when we're trying to manipulate it. And there are so many people, I see it every day, every single day, people trying to control life. And then I ask, how's that going for you? Yeah. How does it feel in your body when you are literally having a temper tantrum and a freak out because you can't control life? What can you do differently? Because you can do something differently. So just 2 days ago, I was having a conversation with one of my leadership clients, and I could feel a victim edge coming through. And so I paused our conversation. I said, tell me, how much control do you have over your life? And she said, well, I have full control except between 9 to 5. I said, oh yeah, I can see that. And so let me ask you this. Do you get to control when you turn on your computer? Like if it's 8:59, 9, 9:01, 9:02? She says, yeah, I do. Awesome. Do you get to control if you take breaks during your day? She says, yeah, I do. Do you get to control when you eat or go to the washroom during your day? She says, yeah, I do. Do you get to control when you respond to those emails that are coming in frantically? She says, yes, I do. So how much control do you have over your day? She said, I have so much control. But we forget because we get so caught up in the busyness of life. And let's just say that our society is one that makes busyness sexy. And yet busyness is a numbing strategy. The faster we go, the less we have to feel. The more we can project blame and make it about them, whatever the them is, the less we take personal responsibility and accountability. So chapter 10, Living in Surrendered Presence. Yeah.
You're so right. And I think that chapter is for everybody. There are other chapters that people will go into and they will empathize with it. They will understand it. They will think, oh, wow, that is so impactful. But it also, some of it, we don't all feel everything. But that chapter, everybody stumbles there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So the pathway, the call to freedom was going to be called the pathway to freedom, but it had to be the call because I got that call at age 32. And it takes the reader through, how do we remember we're miracles? And then how do we remember the other's a miracle? And then how can we parent in a way that's different? So the categories that it went number one in, which I'm like still overwhelmed with, because I don't know why, but I didn't put any expectations on this book. I just knew I was called to write it. It took me 7 years. It was met with tragedy near the end. I published it. And then within 24 hours, it was number one in spiritual growth and self-help, the category that's probably nearest and dearest to my heart, my purpose, my life purpose.
And it's a huge category.
Yeah. Yeah. It was number one in the category of inner child. It was number one in the category of parent emotions and feelings. And I love that because there's only one chapter that I talk about parenting specifically, and how to raise children that are not people pleasers, and how to celebrate boundaries in children. And I bring my speech language pathologist lens, which I've done for 35 years as a practicing speech pathologist. I bring that lens into it about how valuable communication is and the power of no as a communication to celebrating your children. So parents need to read that chapter. And then the reality is the entire book is a reparenting book for us as adults. As we step into our spiritual maturity, the call to step into the spiritual maturity, it becomes a book to reparent all the parts of yourself that perhaps weren't met with the same loving presence that you deserved, and we all deserve, because you were in an environment, parents, society, school, siblings, partners, whatever, that didn't have their own capacity to bring loving presence to their life. So we get to stand up here and say, okay, I'm stopping the generational habits, unconsciousness, traumas, stress, tensions that have been brought in for thousands of years. Mm. And I'm saying, I am taking this very radical responsibility right now to become the parent to all parts of me that were denied loving parenting, and choose to show up differently in the world and pay it forward in a different way. And that, as you know so well, Tracy, heals past generations. So this becomes an opportunity, not just for your own personal healing, but for healing generations past, and for certainly healing generations forward.
You're spot on here. And it's so critical, an approach and a tool and a need to understand how to become the loving parent to yourself. And it's something that I didn't understand until I added to my toolkit with hypnotherapy some years ago, and learned about upgrading the child and becoming the loving parent. And at first, when you just hear it, you think, well, that doesn't make sense, from a very external perspective. But when you can connect with the young child that you were and see what was missing for that young child, what were the words that they needed to hear? What was the thing that was missing in their life? And you get now, as the adult, to be able to tell that young child, you deserved it. You are loved. You are amazing. You're talented. You're beautiful. You're perfect in every way that you could be perfect. And I am going to look after you. I am going to guide you and lead you, protect you, love you, support you, encourage you, be your cheerleader. When you become your own parent, your own guide, your own supporter, it's the most powerful support, because nobody can take it away.
Yes, absolutely. I often would, especially through COVID, I found myself very isolated in Ontario. And this, Tracy, and as you read the book, readers will find this. I'm giving a little bit of information away, that my husband and I separated, and he chose not to he literally walked away and never wanted to come back. Like, we didn't have a closing conversation to this day. So how do you end a relationship with someone you love without ever having a closing conversation, especially for somebody who's really committed to personal spiritual growth and communication? And yet I can't force them to have a conversation. And so all I can do is have the conversation myself that I need to heal the wounds that were opened up around my neglect and abandonment when that experience happened. And so I didn't have to go back and say, oh, my abandonment wound is so triggered right now because when I was, hours old, I was separated from my mother, from my twin, and not attended to. I don't even have to go there. I literally can go right here and now and say, oh, what's alive in me right now that needs loving parenting? And that's what I attend to. So whereas in traditional therapy, talk therapy, especially, people might go back to the very beginning. I don't do that. I go like, let's go right here and now. What's alive right now? Oh, nothing. Okay, let's get really still and quiet for a few moments. I take them through my realignment practice, which we've done before on your show, and help them to tune into the various parts of themselves and feel fully what is calling their attention. And sometimes it's beautiful spaciousness and loving presence. And sometimes it's tension, tightness, and darkness that's calling their attention, saying, now's the time, let's sit here. And that's a beautiful miracle to have that opportunity, because as you bring your loving presence to that, it's bringing the light into the dark. It's the yin into the yang. It's being able to heal the parts of you that you were told at some point, don't talk about. They're not lovable. Nobody wants to see that. And put a mask on, put on a smile and say, you know this, Tracy, because it's in my book, I'm fine. And fine means effed up, insecure, needy, and empty. And so I want to take that narrative, love it, and then transform it. And that's what we do through the story. And I really hope that every parent reads this book, every potential parent reads this book, so that they can learn to do parenting in a way that we create the next generation of children that have radical responsibility for themselves and the world and each other. Loving kindness and presence to all parts of themselves, knowing that there's nothing that doesn't belong. They're not broken. They've simply forgotten that they're miracles. And a really recent story is, I live in this beautiful brown home townhouse complex, and I have a 16-year-old, and sometimes he runs up and down the stairs as he's moving through the house, like he's not necessarily always aware of his environment. And I told my kids from the time they were very little, and maybe you've said this, and maybe your audience has said this to their kids, who do you think you are? You think you're the center, are you the center of the universe? You're not the center of the universe. And then I would catch myself, because of my teachings, I would say, wait a second. And I've got this little poster right in front of me. You are the universe experiencing itself. So yes, you are the center of the universe. You are. And yet you are also responsible to remember that everybody else is as well. So here I am reflecting on my son, saying, you're making too much noise. Our neighbors complained. They said, every night between 8:30 and 9, there's this massive noise coming from your house. It's like, I'm not hearing it, so I'm attending to it now. I'm not deflecting it. I'm not blaming my son. I'm not saying no. I'm going to pay attention to this, because I want to be that neighbor that gets along with people. And so I had this conversation with my son. I said, I know that you're such a miracle, and it might be possible that you're moving through the world in a way that you are not considering other people are also here and a miracle. So let's work together on this to try to resolve it. And that's how we resolve it. I don't say, Ben, you're making too much noise, stop it. I say, we're calling ourselves investigators now. We're investigating where this noise is coming from, so we can both take responsibility if it comes up, and then make our neighbors happy.
A collaboration.
It's a collaboration.
I love it. I love it. And the way you use, just coming back to what you said about being fine and what it represents, has reminded me of how using that so powerfully throughout the book. You use it several times.
Yeah.
Fine, going through it. You explain it, of course, the first time and what it means, what it represents. But the way you handled the book, using that as one of the ways of bringing it back to reality, of we put this face on, we're fine about everything, but actually we're not, and we know what it stands for. But you handled all of these very serious developments and evolutions in your life with the most beautiful authenticity and grace and dignity and rawness and humor. The way you
Mm.
dropped in fine, that it kept coming up, and I was fine about that. And
Mm.
it's really what we do feel in those moments. We're trying to say to everybody, it's all okay, it's all fine, when what we actually really mean is, we mean, this is a difficult thing for me, this is a struggle, this is frustrating
Yeah.
me, but I'm having
Yeah.
to just,
I'm in pain. I'm in
yeah,
pain, right?
yeah,
That's what it is. The fine is I'm in pain.
yeah,
And, it's a trauma response to say I'm fine. It's a trauma response to put on a mask and smile and move through the world, because otherwise, how would one function?
yeah,
And so I can honor and love all those times that I said I'm fine, because it's how I needed to protect myself to be able to move on in life. I
mhm,
don't make it wrong. Today, I have a different understanding. And so I can touch my pain with a different presence,
mm,
and I take the responsibility to heal my pain.
yeah.
And so this might be a good time to bring up what happened as I was about to launch the book, which I
Let's
brought.
do that.
Yeah.
This was so tough during a time when already it's very stressful for anyone who has written a book and launched their book. There's a lot to do, a lot to pull together. You always have great plans for things being done in a very, very organized and orderly time, but it all comes together very suddenly. There's a lot of time and effort needed, a lot of stress involved, and then something else comes in that rocks the world. Tell us about
Yeah. Yeah. So I had a small team, and there are people that I've worked with before in another publishing company, and they're all my friends. And when I said I'm doing my book, could I get some help? They all said yes. So I have a small team, and they're all contractors. They work in various different environments, but each one of them so amazing, because as the client, I'm their client. I feel like I'm their only client. They're so attentive and generous. And one of my team members was my book designer. Her name is Danya Zafar. And Danya, this cover that you see over here is my son-in-law took the photo, which is in my backyard, basically. And the cover is all Danya. The beauty, the calmness, all of that is her creativity and her genius and her light, and everything inside, the inside print and all of that is Danya. And she and I worked so beautifully together, and we connected almost daily around the book. And we thought we were done. And this was now almost 3 weeks ago. We thought we were maybe 3.5 weeks ago. We thought we were done. And then as I was doing the Audible for the book, which by the way, didn't turn out great. So I had to can that and hire a narrator who sounded the closest to me to redo it, because my sound quality wasn't great. So the Audible is available though as of today. As I was doing it, I caught 17 additional errors. And for anybody who's writing a book, who has written a book, books go through multiple editing journeys, and we think we've caught everything. And I'm a bit of a communication expert, and I'm a very bit of a communication perfectionist. So there was no way I was publishing this book with any errors. And I came across 17 errors. So it was a Monday. I sent Danya a message. I said, Danya, I'm so sorry. I know we thought we were done, but I caught 17 errors. Can you make these revisions before we send it into Amazon? She said, no worries at all, of course. And then I didn't hear from her by the weekend. And at that point, we were 2 weeks to launch, or 2 weeks to launch. And I started messaging her, is everything okay? And remember how earlier I talked about how when we get stressed and through our conditioning, we start to create narratives and stories, and we believe them to be true. And that makes us react in certain ways in the world. Well, the story that I was running was, oh my gosh, is Danya too busy? Did I make her angry by asking her to do these edits? Has she cut me out? Is she not going to complete this book project with me? What's going on? What did I do? And I personalize it, which is super egocentric. It's the ego personalizes and creates these stories. And so I kept trying to reach her. And on the Wednesday night, I sent a text message and I said, Danya, please tell me you're okay. At this point, I was turning to concern. Please tell me you're okay. And I woke up at 3 a.m. and I never wake up at night. And I saw my phone light was on, and I never check my phone at night. And it was one of my editors who texted me and said, did you hear the news? And I said, tell me what happened. And Danya, literally exactly a week earlier, but nobody found out, had perished in a tragic Airbnb fire in Montreal. And it was shocking. It's still shocking. It was shocking for everybody that's worked with her, all the different publishers and team members that have worked with her, that knew her as this bright, beautiful, calm, creative light in the world. And, at that moment, my first thought was, in chapter 12, I use this term plot twist. Like, you think life is going in one direction and then there's a plot twist. I thought, I'm not meant to publish this book. The universe doesn't want me to publish this book. I cannot publish this book. That would be so dishonoring to her. So I didn't do anything that day. I just grieved. And the people that were on my book team, I had calls with them. I held space for them, and we grieved. And the next morning I woke up, and here's the complicated piece. So I call this, that was a very complicated grief, because my heart was very heavy. And when one experiences grief, it opens the portal. Every new grief opens the portal for unprocessed previous grief, which I talk about in chapter 9. And I knew that, and I could hold space for it. And I was really tender with my grief. And I gave it tons of attention and loving presence that day. But I also had this complicated piece of me that was, oh my goodness, what do I do with this book? She had the raw files on my computer. How do I even access and make those 17 changes? And this is where I went to, I'm not publishing my book. So 10 days before it was set to publish, I'm ready to wrap it up, close it up, put it in a box and put it away. And the next morning I woke up, obviously clearer headed. And I contacted Danya's family. I asked for their permission. I said, this is truly going to be a dedication to her, a legacy for her, and possibly her last project, the last project that she would have completed. So a legacy for that reason as well. And I said, I'm creative, I'm resourceful, I can figure this out. So one of my team members and I figured out how to retrieve the raw files, unlock them, make the changes with a font that we didn't have access to. Like, it's so complicated, yet we made it work. We got it uploaded. We launched it last Saturday. So just like 4 days ago, 4.5, 5 days ago, launched it on time. And immediately it started getting the most incredible reviews. And Sunday morning, I sat in bed looking at the best-selling status that it had received and reading the reviews, bawling my eyes out. And I feel very, I'm touching that tender part of me right now. It was hard to get this book written. It was hard to get this book published. It was hard to get the parts of me to the place where I could write this book. And I think sometimes, why did I have to go through all of that to do this? That's my victim piece of me. That's the little girl in me. That's, oh man, it was hard. And yet I can also sit here with tears of so much gratitude and joy, and knowing that this purpose, this book, was my deepest purpose. And if I can help other people and it becomes medicine for other people, I am living my purpose.
It's Diana, it's a journey doesn't express it. It was very tough and right up to the wire. And Danya was amazing. Danya created the cover for my book as well. This beautiful artwork.
Yay. Love it. Oh, she's
this.
beautiful. Yeah.
And it was a huge shock. I only heard for the first time, I think on was it Friday or Saturday of last weekend. So that must have been very, very tough for you. You've worked very closely together. And these kind of things do make us question the bigger scheme of what we're doing.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
Sometimes we need to step away, like you did. You said you were ready to just pack it up in a box and leave it. That the universe was telling you this is not meant to happen. But sometimes when we feel that intensely about something, we need to step away from it. just for a
Yeah.
moment, just
Yeah.
a moment. And a moment could be overnight. It could be a few hours. And give yourself a little bit of breathing space between you and that thing, that situation, the event, and come back to it just a little bit fresher and a different perspective the next day or hours later, because we can easily talk ourselves out of being in control, can't we?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And we talk ourselves out of being in control, and we talk ourselves into the story that we need to be in control. So coming back to that control conversation earlier, where we then start grasping and projecting, and and that's not healthy either. So taking the pause, stepping back, taking a few breaths. Remember, I said I have a chapter that's called Breathe and Everything Changes, chapter 7. And the neurophysiology, I'm a neuroscience geek. I bring a lot of science into the book. The neurophysiology of breath is so incredibly powerful that one breath, Eckhart tells us, is an entire meditation. And it can change our entire neurophysiology. Well, that day, I needed probably like 10,000 breaths to be able to change my perspective. And yet I was able to change my perspective, step back into my purpose, step back into the need for this book to be launched. And as I sat there Sunday morning, reading the reviews, crying, knowing I did exactly what I needed to do. Like, this book needed to be launched. And so I don't know where it's going. I mean, it's gotten, the LA Tribune called it a must read and wrote a beautiful review on it. There are like thousands of media sources that are contacting me now, doing, news media, stuff like that, which is really interesting. And I don't know where it's going to take me, but I am committed to the Call to Freedom Facebook group. If people want to connect with me on Facebook at dm.lockett, or find the Call to Freedom and ask to join that group, I'm going to take the book chapter by chapter and run masterclasses and help people in real time to go through their healing journey. And again, I'm going to say, all healing has its time. You are not broken. You simply have had conditioned experiences, traumas, and pain that's still living in your body. And so when we can start to lovingly soften, unlock, and cast a light on that, the light on the shadow, we can start to live more wholeheartedly, more authentically, and really with the presence of joy that we're meant to be here.
That is just so beautifully put. That is beautifully, beautifully put, a beautiful summation of it. And this book is important. It is so valuable to everybody. We've all been through different things at different points of our life, and we all learn to carry the baggage with us. If you want to be free of the baggage, read The Call to Freedom. It's going to help. And the exercises in it are beautiful. They are so fitting for everywhere that you've placed them. And they will become the toolkit for people to find that call to freedom and embrace it.
And my hope is that people will read it again and again.
Yes.
If they're going through a period where they're feeling like they're not accessing their boundaries, they're feeling depleted, they'll go to that chapter. If they feel that they're having to navigate a grief experience, they'll go to that chapter. So I really do hope that it becomes a tool for people to reference back again and again. And I've also created, here's what I'm going to do for your readers. I'm going to make myself a note so I can send it to you. I've created a companion journal to the Call to Freedom, Heal Your Pain, Awaken Your Loving Presence. And I'm making it available to the people who join the Facebook group. And it's a beautiful, I think it's almost 30 pages, companion journal with the realignment steps extracted. I've had to change them a little bit so that it makes sense in a standalone journal. So the realignment steps extracted, beautifully put together in this journal. It's a PDF that you can print and use as you go through the book, or anytime that you need to do some journaling with some prompts, it's available. So I'm going to make that available for your readers. I'll send it to you, Tracy, and you can share it on the episode notes.
Diana, that is incredible. Thank you so much for that. That is going to be so impactful. And I would also urge people who, we all know other people who are having a hard time. We all know people, multiple people, who are going through their own difficulties. If you know somebody who is struggling, get this book for them. It will be the best thing that you do for them, the best gift you could possibly give them. That, and maybe sit with them over a coffee, but get them this book. Let them find their way through to empowering themselves and finding the freedom that they need from the thing that they're going through.
Thank you. Yeah, I so appreciate that. And we'll see where it takes us. It's available on all the Amazons. I just got a notification this morning. It's interesting, right? We think that we've uploaded the book to Amazon and we're done. But then it's like, wait a second, no, the Audible's not there. There's a few little things to do with the Audible. Oh, hang on a second. It's not on Barnes and Noble. It's not print form ready for Amazon. It's all, or for chapters. It's all these other pieces. And just this morning, I got a notification from Ingram Sparks, which is another distributor, that it's ready to launch, but I have to review it. So it's an ongoing journey. And here's what I'm actually going to do and then I've already done it, is I'm offering to coach people through their author journey. Not because I don't have enough things to do in my life, because I wear so many different hats, but I feel like I know how to make a book a bestseller. I know how to help people write from their hearts and be able to write for the reader. So I am going to do very limited one-on-one coaching. Mostly what I'm going to do is collaborate with other people who are already doing this. And I'm going to bring in the piece around how do we get a book ready for bestseller? Because there is definitely a formula for that. I have studied other people. I've studied people whose books haven't even launched yet and seen what they've done. And I've created my own recipe for how to make a book a bestseller in a 24-hour time period, and how to keep the momentum and the energy of the book alive beyond that. Because a lot of publishers will get it to bestseller and they're stopping there. That's where their responsibility ends. I want people to be able to continue the energy of the book. So I'm going to coach people. So if people want support around that, it's not on my website. I'm not posting it yet, but I am collaborating with other people who have the skills to help me get an entire book done. I can do it all, but I don't want to do it all, because I have this phrase, we may not have it all together, but together we can have it all. And I'm meant to collaborate. I'm meant to be in the presence of others to support and champion others. So people can reach out to me at dianalockett.com. And there's a contact me form there. And I look forward to hopefully seeing people in the Facebook group.
Oh my God, that is the most incredible thing. I'm so happy to hear that. That is just genius, because everybody needs to write their book. Okay, we say everybody. We know not everybody is going to, because it's a big undertaking. And yet we can make it simpler. And there is a formula both to writing the book and to publishing the book, and then after publishing. You're absolutely right. There's a formula. And several people have come to me saying, oh, Tracy, you've written your book. You've launched it. How's it going? I'm writing my own, and they're self-publishing. Now, self-publishing is fine if you're happy with it, but it always looks self-published.
So what I want to do is help people who want to self-publish because they don't have the funds to pay for a publishing company. I'm not opening a publishing company. I'm going to do a consulting for self-publishers to help them make it look this professional.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's people who are doing it all on their own.
Yeah.
And you don't know what you don't know. You don't know the format for your book. You don't know what works for a cover. You don't know how to engage in with Amazon to get your book on there, and the information that's required. You don't know what you don't know. So doing it all your own self-publishing is hard. And it will look like that.
Yeah.
This is an incredible gift, and obviously not gift, but this is an incredible gift to be able to work with someone who knows it inside out, who really, really knows the journey of how to publish successfully, and has all the contacts for all of the people that do the different types of editing and all of the artwork and all the typography, everything. Yeah. So valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't make this Zoom background in back of me. I have a graphic artist who does it. And I really believe that I'm here on this earth to help to uplift other people and to celebrate them. So the people that did the work for me, I want to get them other work. I want them to be the person that when someone is looking to self-publish particularly, and they don't know how to do it, I know exactly who the heart coach is that's going to help them to uncover their story. I know exactly who the graphic artist is that's going to understand what artwork needs to be created for your book. I know exactly for the promotions of your book. I know the editors. And so I want to help support other people. They're not my people. They're people that worked for me and with me, but they're not my people. They're creating their own businesses. So what a beautiful mindset of abundance when we can celebrate everybody and encourage everybody to go and work together. I love that perspective. So that's what I'm on a mission to do now. I'm not rushing into it, so I'm not putting it on my website. But if anybody's at the point they're hearing this, they're writing their story. And by the way, there is a skill and a technique to writing a story for the reader versus just writing your story. And that's really important. And I have a beautiful heart-centered content editor that I could refer you to for that. So I could consult with people and help them get them in with the right supports. And then at the end, I will likely create a document that might be like an online course of how to market the book so that it can become bestseller and #1. Because apparently I have the strategies.
You have it in abundance.
Yeah.
This is magic, Diana. It really is, because I know from going through it that it's vital to get all of the support from all of the experts to be able to publish something that you're going to be happy with and that leaves an impact in the world.
For centuries. Let's just add that, right? Like books don't go away.
They don't.
And so, I wanted a book that I could be really proud of. And I have to say, all the stuff that went on, I am still so proud of my book. I'm so proud of who I was along the journey of writing it, even when I didn't show up at my best. I'm proud of how I stayed the course and ensured that it happened with the beautiful quality that it's been created. I'm proud of the comments that people are offering and how it's making a difference in people's lives. And so I want people who write their books to be proud of the product that they put into the world. This is their creative heart being expressed in print. And so I'm talking myself into creating this role here for myself, by the way, first time that I've said it publicly. So I guess I'm doing this. And eventually I'll create I'll add it to my website and I'll create an offering.
Oh, that is incredible. That really is incredible. Another part of your legacy in the world to help people to build their legacy.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm going to take a note of that and add it to my website.
Do that. That is amazing. Diana, this has been a huge joy to catch up with you and talk about your experience of writing your book, of publishing your book, the ups and the downs, the ins and the outs. Congratulations from the bottom of my heart. You've done an amazing job. You have created a very beautiful book in every sense of the word. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It means so much to me. I adore you. I appreciate you. I love your feedback. It really touches my heart. When I had to look for someone as an early reviewer to do a testimonial for the book, you're the first person that came to mind. Oh. And I loved your book and had the privilege of reading it before it was released as well. So it just felt like so synergistically aligned to be able to ask you. And I'm so grateful for your review and testimonial. It just touched me so deeply. So thank you. And thank you for all that you're doing in your role with leaders and through your podcast. You're a beautiful woman.
My pleasure, Diana. You're too kind. You're making me blush now. Thank you so much. And we have many more adventures ahead for us. I'm grateful to be in your life and can't wait to hear all that goes on. And I shall be sending people your direction when they tell me they want to write their book and have nobody to guide them through it.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, I truly appreciate that. Thank you. Sure. And I wish you all the best. And let's get on another call soon.
We will do that, most definitely. Diana, thank you for sharing with us today. It's been so wonderful. And thank you to all of our listeners for joining us for another episode of Limitless Potential and to embrace your own call to freedom. So enjoy the book, read the book. We will share with you that amazing opportunity to have the workbook to go with that. And thank you, Diana, again. And we'll welcome you back another time to share the next updates along life's journey. Thanks,
Thank
Diana.
you.
Thanks to all our listeners. And we'll see you soon for another episode of Limitless Potential.